What is up, coders and people that watch my channel? My name is Matt. You're watching Code Tech Tutorials, and today we're going to go over the latest Ancient Archer updates. What is Ancient Archer, you may ask? We'll start with the future. The next steps are to improve the physics, because there are physics in the game now. It just aren't perfect, and they aren't fully integrated with the whole model setup, but they're partially there. So you can do some stuff, and also animations. So I've been working a lot on the lighting, and I've also done a lot of work on the model loading to make sure it brings in all the tangents, all the vectors you might need. But in reality, the next big thing I need to do here is I need to make it so the physics can move around the objects, because in all previous versions I just hard-coded all the movement, all the translation, all the scaling, anything the models did where it was hard-coded. But now I can put a physics collider on it and let that physics collider handle where the model goes, and that is the future. However, the current problem is, well, I've ripped out all the initial implementations of all the move stuff. So when you add a collider, it just puts everything in the center of the world at 0, 0. So I've got to do some work on that, and that's something that'll be done with this version. We are on version 006. Yeah, I put out 005. I wanted to get that one just kind of capped off and move on to this one. With physics and animations, we should be able to get a nice movable world, because currently you can't really see it in the demo, but we could design a static world that pretty much does what we want. We could have, like, brick walls and ground, and we could essentially design out a level that you have to walk through and go through, and it would not look like an open world. And as you can see, I've implemented some walk controls, some movement, the flashlight you can turn on and off, and also there is a area light which I can turn on, and it's very bright, and it's coming from the angle of that sun thing, the interface stuff. I'm GUI up here, so it's another thing that I want to finish implementing, because while it's done, it doesn't have a proper way to actually hook up variables and things that you want to change. So we're going to add that along with physics before this version comes out, and hopefully the animations too. Those are the big things. Now there is PBR lighting, HDR skies, a lot of stuff like that. And I've covered the basics of how this thing works in the last couple of vlogs. Basically just build it, link it, and include the Ancient Archer header that is public here. And then you should be able to start using all these public functions. So these are the ones you should use if you're using it as a library, just all these public functions, basically nothing else. And this should be enough to encompass generally a game engine. But oh my, animations are huge. So that'll be a really big step. And there's a lot to do. We can get them working, but also we want to be able to switch between them and have a system of which ones are loaded up, and make sure they have proper tests to work with the bones, how they're supposed to work. And we are going to have to probably get quaternions going, because I did notice in the physics. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this transform basically has a quaternion and a location vector. Yeah, quaternion and a vector. And we should be able to do all our operations on that. Now, another thing I noticed that's kind of odd to reason about is models that have multiple objects within them, or multiple meshes. So my loader will load them all up and display them. But I also need to consider whether I want to have them attached to each other via child-parent relationships. And I guess that's up to the scene, but I always thought that they should be generally attached. I'll show you some examples. Okay, so one of the things I've done is change my node info a lot. Now, what is node info? It's sort of a core little element that basically each of these is a node in the world, and they can have a VAO, texture draw IDs. So these can be drawn, they can be moved around. This is sort of like the core game elements, but they're nodes, so you can have parent-child relationship of them all, and some models are built like that. And I'm trying to figure out how modular or large I should make this. Should I put more stuff? Should I put some add-on capability? I'm kind of working on a little method like that to go here. But for now, it is what it is. We've got the physics, we've got the draw info, and that's typically what we're going to be working with before we draw, because we check where it's at based on its physics body, and we put it in that position, and then we draw it. So that's essentially all this little node thing is right now. You know, I've gone back and forth here. Do I really want to have all this info here? So our props all have a bunch of node info. They have a vector of node info called the meshes. And we typically only work with the front one when we're moving stuff around, the first node, and that we saved. If we try to, you know, when you load a model, usually they have an empty node, and then they have the real stuff. So if the node was empty, we don't save that one. We only save the real stuff. But we might want to save that real one, or save the initial transform. Also, I added a library manifest thing. So now in properties, if you go to use VC PKG manifest, switch this to yes, it should automatically grab all the libraries. And I'm not sure if this works correctly yet. So if anyone tests it, let me know. Or if anyone knows how to make it actually right, feel free to edit it on this branch, this V006 branch, because I don't think it's right. Let me show you, but I have something to learn here. Files, and here we go to the top, and this here, this JSON file. Let's take a look at it. So it's just this little manifest thing, and it's supposed to have all the dependencies. I don't know what all this stuff does, to be honest. If you know how to fix up this file, let me know. I dug into it a little bit, but it wasn't very clear how to do these, so it's pretty easy to manually install them, so it's not that big of a deal. But it would just be nice if it auto worked. As I've turned on the manifest, it seems to have broken some things, so I'm going to turn that back off for now. And let's go back to properties, VCPKG, use manifest to no until we get that fixed. So there's that. All right, let me show you an example of a little bit of a world and some stuff loading up. All right, I had to dig in and fix just a few things, but this should do. Yeah, it's hard to see. Let's turn on the lights. So, okay, those are broken. The cubes are huge, but the physics box inside them, it's got a really tiny physics box. So that's why those look so odd. But I was just testing something. I want to be able to get the physics box to automatically increase depending on the starting mesh. So that's something in progress, and it should be done for this version, but it's actually not done right now. So we're gonna change that back before we show the example. So in my example project, I have a set models that is called every run, and that's where I basically do all my little sample stuff. And you can see that I'm loading a bunch of test ground. Okay, so I made these 10x green cubes. That's what it's loading up. That doesn't look right, but we're gonna change this to a different cube, a normal cube. So you can see here that we're adding physics. It defaults to box, defaults to sphere. It's just a 1x1. As you can see, now we're in the world, and those do have proper physics, and they also have emission textures. So I did get the base for emission working. That way we can do neon signs or whatever. Still use some glow effect to look better. And as you can see, the world is much expanded. I guess you can actually walk to the edge. Got a little sprint button. But there's no falling off. The bottom plane just goes endlessly, which is intentional. Now, what I thought about doing for a basic starter sample is actually take these ground plates or whatever, the ground planes, and I could essentially shift and reuse them so that they stay centered on the character, but not a true centered so they don't move. So the ones that are furthest away back there will snap to the front and the draw over here or something like that. So you could make an endless runner system or an endless world by just using the same 9 planes with the repeating textures. let me get some models loading up, because if you're in debug mode, it's going to show you all the stuff that's going on in general. I got a lot of debug stuff. This doesn't show in release. So it optimizes all that away. I optimize the texture and model loading so that if you keep loading the same model over and over, it only loads it once and reuses the node info for it basically otherwise. So there's a lot of there have been a lot of improvements already. And same for textures. If it's already got one loaded, even if it's an internal texture, it will properly reuse most internal textures as long as they're from the same model. So that's cool, because at one point this was super spammy, spawning a bunch of these little cubes, spammed it that many times. But once I optimized it away, it only spams once, and then it just reuses that one anytime you say load this one again. Nice little optimization. And as you load up models, it tells you what it's finding. Alright, let's make a few changes. So in our trusty model loader file, this is where most of the magic happens, and we keep track of all the loaded models. This also helps with unloading them too, because these have reference counts. So you will see a reference count. Now, in theory, I should probably use something else instead of this reference count variable. Like a shared pointer or something might actually be better in this sort of case. So potential redesigns to be more modern, but I'm not sure if it's actually worth my time to do all that, because it might be the exact same efficient. And that's one of the things you learn about coding after a while. Yeah, there's all these little tricks you can do all over the place, and the more you learn, the more little tricks you can do. But at some point, you just want things to work, and if it's working, you leave it alone. Maybe you could refactor it and it'd be fun or cooler, but if it already works and does what it's supposed to do, it's kind of a waste of time to refactor. It has to have some sort of performance improvement, or much more readable and easier to understand. But if none of those are the case, you might as well just leave it. On the process mesh, somewhere in here we should have a load materials, right? It tells you what kind of shading model it picked up. This is all using the ASIMP, Open Asset Importer library. Alright, so if we get a base diffuse texture, we should say something. Yeah, so it should be saying something there. Okay, here it is. It just, okay, it has a split between this loaded. So the first time it loads a texture, a new texture, it will say. But if it reuses one, it doesn't really say. So I could put some spam in here to say like it reused. But that's all done in the material textures, because all this does is return or fill out this texture's unordered map. And it might fill it out with stuff that already exists. In this load material textures, we have quite a big checker that does a lot of different things, but it really just ensures that it loads the texture if it has it. So it tries from embedded, it tries to reuse if it's already loaded, it manages the list of all loaded textures if we load up a new one. So this load material textures is quite a function, and I've spent a lot of time making sure it works properly and does the proper thing. And same with the model loader. So those are always being improved. All I really need to do to make the rest of my stuff show is take these capsule colliders off of them. These capsules are really tiny and these models are really huge. So if I load up a bunch of these, let's load up a few more. This guy, and here we are. As you can see, there are 3 models and all that stuff. So we can walk over here and take a look at these guys, and we have a flashlight that we're pointing, so as we get closer we show more light, but the light is coming from approximately the angle of the skybox, so it's actually lighting up their back, which looks a little, you know, we start over here in the center. We're looking at their unlit side, so these are basically backlit models. There's not a whole lot of front lighting, just whatever the directional lights, ambient, is showing everywhere, of course. And if I turn on my flashlight here, we can get a look at how that looks. Okay, so here is my little radius light, and here it is. And I have a function down below that says if the radius light exists or has been, it's not -1, it should move and stay on the player. So I'll hit play again. I'll show you, just show you that. And I should probably turn down the sound on this. It's really loud, isn't it? And you'll see there's a light that seems to be following us around. you are seeing here normal and specular loaded on these models. So they are looking pretty good. Now I've got some work to do on normal stuff because either I'm doing it wrong or I'm understanding it wrong and implementing it wrong. And this is just falling lighting essentially. We also don't have shadows, as you may have noticed. So we are going to work on that too. The shadows should be coming, and as we add shadows, it's gonna, a lot of other things are gonna come with it, like the HDR skies come along with shadows. Why is that? Because they both essentially work the same way. They both basically take a cube map screenshot of the world around you, and then they use that as a reflection map, and essentially kind of save those as textures. So once we figure that out, we'll be able to do all sorts of post-processing. There is no post-processing currently. In theory, we could put up walls and blockers and design game logic and go through dungeons or whatever. We could do all that stuff. Look forward to seeing some big stuff happen in these next versions. We're kind of out of the initial total noob phase, which is nice. And I'm looking forward to doing more. Programming's hard, guys. If you're working on stuff that you know is a lot of progress for you, be really proud of yourselves. That's my big tip, because it's really easy to go find people that are further ahead of you, especially with how easy it is to just go look up stuff. Like everyone you look at on social media and stuff, they always seem like they're way further than you, and that's fine. Congratulate them, but also, you know, you can learn from them. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is try not to compare yourself to others. It's real easy to get demoralized if you do that. And that's something I've been working on. I've actually taken a little bit of time off, you might have noticed, just to like focus on myself and my mentality and make sure that I'm not doing stuff like that, because it really messes me up and it's not really fair to me or you guys or anyone that looks up to me. So stick with it. I appreciate you guys. And a special shout out to the patrons of this channel. You are making these videos possible. It does mean a lot. And if you want to support me further, you can go sign up over there. And you also get access to all the stuff I post over there. And I've been posting a lot more, kind of more my thought process and explaining some things and stuff like that. We also have a Discord. You're welcome to join there. Everyone's been super cool over there. Just, you know, it's more places to talk about things or get opinions on stuff. But I've got some other productions coming up this month, so look forward to those. All right, keep coding, you guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.